You ever noticed how a gas engine sounds like it's asking a question, but a diesel engine sounds like it's stating a fact? It's that deep, rhythmic thrum, the kind of noise that vibrates right in your sternum before you even hear it with your ears.
Honestly, Tiger, to me, it just sounds like a tractor that's angry about being awake at 6 in the morning. It's loud, it's smelly, and frankly, it's intimidating. Why are we dragging the listeners into the belly of this particular beast today?
Because, Alex, if the gasoline engine is the sprinting heart of the modern world, the diesel is the backbone. It's the difference between a thoroughbred horse and a mountain ox. One is for show and speed, the other will pull your house off its foundation if you ask it nicely. But people are terrified of them because there aren't any spark plugs. It's like magic to the uninitiated.
Magic? It's internal combustion, not a seance. But you're right, the lack of a spark plug is the part that always trips me up. If you don't have that little lightning bolt to start the fire, how does the party get started?
Heat, my friend. Pure, unadulterated pressure. Imagine you've got a bicycle pump and you plug the end with your thumb and shove that handle down as hard as you can. The air gets hot, right? Now imagine doing that inside a steel cylinder, but squeezing that air until it's about a 20th of its original size. It gets so blistering hot in there that when you mist a little fuel into the chamber, the air itself just sets the fuel on fire. It's a spontaneous combustion party.
So basically, the engine is just bullying the air until it explodes?
That's a fairly accurate, if slightly aggressive way to put it. And that's why these things are built like tanks. You can't make a diesel out of flimsy aluminum and hope for the best. You need mass, you need iron, you need head bolts that look like they belong on the Golden Gate Bridge. I remember the first time I tried to lift a cylinder head off an old 7.3-liter Navistar. I thought I was stronger than I was. I ended up horizontal on the shop floor with a strained lower back and a very deep respect for heavy metal.
Okay, so it's built heavy to handle the pressure. I get that. But that weight comes with a reputation for being, well, slow. My neighbor has an old diesel truck, and I swear a brisk walk is faster than his EO to 60 time. If they're so powerful, why are they so sluggish?
It's all about the torque, Alex. Torque is the muscles. Horsepower is just how fast the muscles can move. A diesel is like a power lifter. He's not going to win a 100-meter dash, but he can carry 3 refrigerators up a flight of stairs without breaking a sweat. The fuel burns slower than gasoline. It's a long, steady push on the piston rather than a sharp, violent kick. It's a gentleman's explosion.
A gentleman's explosion. I'll have to remember that for the next time I'm stuck behind a semi-truck on a 2-lane highway. But let's talk about the nightmare side of this. Maintenance. Every time I see a diesel mechanic's bill, it looks like a down payment on a luxury condo. Why is keeping these things alive so expensive?
It's the precision, Alex, specifically the fuel system. In a gas engine, the fuel pressure is, 60 psi, maybe a bit more for direct injection. In a common rail diesel, we're talking 30,000 psi. That's enough pressure to cut through plywood, or your finger if you're unlucky enough to have a leak.
Wait, 30,000? That's not a fuel system, that's a water jet cutter.
Exactly. And because the tolerances in those injectors are measured in microns, we're talking fractions of a human hair, any microscopic speck of dust becomes a high-speed bullet. I once had a guy bring in a tractor he'd fueled up from a rusty farm barrel. He figured, it's a diesel, it'll run on anything. He didn't realize he was essentially sandblasting his injectors from the inside out. That was a 5-figure mistake that could have been avoided with a $10 filter.
So lesson number 1 for the folks listening, don't be cheap with your filters.
Not just don't be cheap, be obsessive. If you're a woodworker, you know how sawdust gets into everything. Imagine that in your fuel. I change my fuel filters way before the manual tells me to. It's cheap insurance. And water is the mortal enemy of a diesel engine. Gasoline evaporates, but water in diesel stays there, sinks to the bottom, and turns into a corrosive sludge that will rot your pump from the inside while you're sleeping.
Speaking of things rotting, let's talk about the smell and the soot. I know modern diesels have all these clean systems now, but I still see the rolling coal crowd and the black clouds. Is that just what happens when a diesel gets old, or is that a choice?
It's a bad choice, Alex. A really bad one. Black smoke is just wasted money. It's unburnt fuel. It means the engine is getting more fuel than it has air to burn. Back in the day, people thought it looked tough, but all you're doing is coating your valves in carbon and melting your exhaust components. Modern diesels use DPFs, diesel particulate filters, to trap that stuff. They're basically giant ceramic honeycombs that catch the soot.
And those are the things that everyone complains about because they get clogged, right? I've heard horror stories about limp mode.
Ah, yes. The dreaded sea dealer. Now light. Look, here's the reality. A diesel engine wants to work. It wants to be hot. If you buy a heavy-duty diesel truck just to drive 3 miles to the coffee shop and back, you are murdering that engine. It never gets hot enough to burn off the soot in the filter. It's like trying to clear a clogged sink by just drizzling a little lukewarm water down the drain. You need a pressure washer. You need to get that engine out on the highway and let it breathe.
So you're saying the mall crawlers are actually doing more damage than the guys hauling horse trailers over the Rockies?
Spot on. My old shop teacher used to say a diesel engine is like a working dog. If you don't give it a job, it'll start chewing up your furniture. If you're not towing or hauling or driving long distances, get a gas truck. You'll save yourself a world of heartache and a mountain of soot.
Let's pivot to the DIYer. If I'm a maker, a tinkerer, and I want to buy an old diesel project, maybe a vintage Mercedes or an old 12-valve Cummins, what am I looking for in the bones? What's the sniff test for a healthy diesel?
First thing, the blow-by test. While the engine is running, carefully mind you, take the oil fill cap off. If it just sits there, or maybe a tiny wisp of vapor comes out, you're golden. But if that cap starts dancing around or smoke starts chugging out like a steam locomotive, it means the piston rings are shot. The pressure from the combustion is leaking past the rings and into the crankcase. That engine is tired. It's ready for a nap, a very expensive, permanent nap.
That's a great visual. Dancing oil caps are bad. Got it. What about the sound? You mentioned the fact stating rhythm earlier.
You want a crisp clatter. If it sounds like a bag of hammers falling down a flight of stairs, stay away. But if it's a rhythmic metallic ticking that stays steady, that's the sound of high pressure injection doing its job. Also, look at the coolant. If the coolant looks like a chocolate milkshake, walk away. That usually means an oil cooler has failed, and mixing oil and water in a high compression environment is a recipe for a kinetic sculpture made of scrap metal.
A kinetic sculpture. You have a very poetic way of describing total mechanical failure.
Experience is just a collection of expensive metaphors, Alex. I once spent 3 days trying to diagnose a no-start condition on a neighbor's tractor. I checked the fuel lines, I checked the glow plugs, I even tore down the lift pump. You know what it was?
A spider web in the air intake?
Close. A tiny pinhole leak in a rubber return line that was letting a minuscule amount of air into the system. In a diesel, air is the enemy of the fuel system. It's called losing prime. If air gets in, the pump can't build pressure. It's like trying to drink a thick milkshake through a straw with a hole in it. You just get bubbles and frustration. I spent 48 hours losing my mind over a $2 piece of rubber.
That's the Tiger special. Overthinking the big stuff while the small stuff is laughing at you.
Guilty as charged. But that's the lesson. With diesels, it's rarely the big heavy iron that fails. It's the periphery. It's a dry rotted O-ring. It's a loose battery terminal. Because remember, it takes a massive amount of electrical juice to turn over an engine with that much compression. If your batteries are even slightly weak, a diesel won't even try to wake up. It'll just give you a pathetic grunt and go back to sleep.
Okay, let's talk about the cold weather thing. Every winter, I see guys with their trucks plugged into their houses. It looks like they're charging an electric car, but I know better. What are they actually doing?
They're keeping the blood warm. Remember, we don't have spark plugs. We rely on the heat of compression. If the engine block is 20 degrees below zero, the metal just sucks all that heat out of the air before it can ignite the fuel. The block heater keeps the coolant warm, so the engine thinks it's a mild spring day. And then there are glow plugs, these little heating elements that sit right in the combustion chamber to give the fuel a hot spot to hit.
I remember you telling me about the time you tried to start an old backhoe with starting fluid. You looked like you were handling nitroglycerin.
Because I basically was. Starting fluid, ether, is the devil's breath for a diesel. If you use it on an engine with active glow plugs, the ether hits those red-hot tips and explodes while the piston is still coming up. It's a great way to turn your piston into a handful of glitter. If you have to use it, you use a tiny, tiny spritz, like you're applying expensive perfume, and you make sure those glow plugs are off. I've seen guys blow intake manifolds off because they got greedy with the spray can.
It sounds like diesels require a lot more, finesse than people realize. For something so heavy and loud, they're surprisingly sensitive.
That's exactly it. They're sensitive to cleanliness, sensitive to temperature, and sensitive to neglect. But if you treat them right, they'll outlive you. There are diesel engines and generator sheds that have been running since the Korean War. You just give them oil, keep the water out of the fuel, and let them work. They don't want to sit in a garage and be polished. They want to pull a load up a mountain.
So, for the makers at home who are listening to this and thinking, maybe I do want a diesel truck or a diesel-powered welder, what's the one thing they should start learning today?
Learn how to bleed a fuel system. Seriously. It's the hello world of diesel maintenance. When you change a filter, you're going to get air in the lines. If you don't know how to get that air out, you're going to kill your starter motor trying to crank it to life. Learn where the primer bulb is, learn which bleeder screw to crack open, and learn how to do it without getting a face full of pressurized fuel.
And maybe wear safety glasses, given the 30,000 PSI thing?
Always, unless you want a permanent diesel-scented tattoo on your eyeball.
I think I'm starting to get it. It's not just a different fuel, it's a different philosophy. It's slow burn, high pressure, long-term thinking.
That's it. It's the ultimate maker engine because it rewards patience and precision. It's not about the flash, it's about the grunt. I think there's something beautiful about a machine that converts heat and pressure into pure, unrelenting work.
Well, I'm still not convinced I want to smell like a bus station every time I go to work, but I definitely have more respect for that angry tractor next door.
That's all a diesel asks for, a little respect and a clean filter.
Great place to wrap. Next time, can we talk about something that doesn't involve 30,000 pounds of pressure? My anxiety can only take so much.
No promises, Alex. The shop is full of high-pressure situations. Keep your oil clean, keep your fuel dry, and don't be afraid to let it work. That's the Den's takeaway for today. See you at the workbench.